Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're unpacking a massive, rapidly growing trend, retiring abroad. We're going to really dig in here and separate those dreamy, picture-perfect expectations from the actual, on-the-ground data. We'll be looking at the real bureaucratic realities of packing up your entire life and moving overseas for your golden years. So I want you to take a second and just picture your absolute ideal retirement destination. If money were literally no object, where would you go? For a lot of us, when we think about leaving the US, our minds instantly jump to a sun-drenched beach, maybe sipping espresso at a villa in Europe or relaxing in a quiet coastal town in Mexico. It's a super common dream, and as the data shows, it's an idea spreading like wildfire. I mean, the expat dream has absolutely exploded over the last 50 years. Check this out. Back in 1974, a Gallup poll found that just 4% of Americans wanted to resettle abroad. Barely a blip. But fast forward to a 2024 Monmouth poll, 17% of Americans aged 55 and older say they want to resettle outside the country. And it gets even crazier when you look at the general population. A 2025 Harris poll found an astonishing 44% of U.S. adults have seriously considered making the move. But hold on, because here's the ultimate reality check. 712,000. Despite nearly half the country dreaming about it, only about 712,000 Americans currently receive their Social Security benefits at a foreign address. To put that into perspective, that is barely 1% of all Social Security beneficiaries. So there's this massive, glaring gap between the folks who want to go and the folks who actually pull it off. To figure out why that gap exists, here's our roadmap for today's explainer. 1. The retirement abroad dream. 2. Surprising top expat destinations. 3. Missing data and hidden retirees. 4. The Medicare catch. And finally, 5. Red tape and banking blues. Let's get right into it. Section 1. The retirement abroad dream. Why Americans want to leave. Now, you might be wondering, what's actually driving this? Well, for the vast majority of baby boomers who are open to moving, the main driver isn't just about seeking some grand adventure. It's strictly financial. A staggering 71% cite a lower cost of living as their primary motivation. The other 29%? That's a mix of things like political dissatisfaction and healthcare access, but affordability is absolutely the main engine here. And when you look at the math, it totally makes sense. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the average retired U.S. household spends about $5,000 a month. But as of December 2025, the average Social Security check is sitting at just $2,071. I mean, the math is brutal, right? An average check just won't cover a typical lifestyle in the States. But that exact same check can easily cover a really comfortable life in top-ranked destinations like Greece, Portugal, and Mexico. All right, moving to Section 2, surprising top expat destinations, where they actually go. So get ready for a surprise, because the actual data cuts right against that tropical beach narrative we were just talking about. When we track where the Social Security Administration physically sends those checks, the number one destination is actually Japan, with roughly 108,000 beneficiaries. Canada is right behind it at 107,000. And Mexico? Officially, it's way down at just 58,000. Japan and Canada absolutely tower over the official numbers for Mexico and those sun-drenched European spots. But wait, Section 3, missing data and hidden retirees, the flaw in the numbers. Here's the thing you have to understand. The Social Security data is incredibly misleading because it's only based on the official address they have on file. And there's no automatic trigger that updates your address when you leave the country. A ton of retirees simply don't update their info because, well, shifting your official address abroad can create a total nightmare for your taxes, your ability to vote, and your Medicare paperwork. Plus, a lot of expats stop working years before claiming benefits, holding off until age 70. All of this creates a massive, hidden population of expats that the official data completely misses. To really grasp how big this hidden population is, look at this number, 290,000. While the SSA only counts 58,000 beneficiaries in Mexico, the U.S. State Department estimates there are about 1.6 million U.S. citizens living there. If you apply the standard U.S. age breakdown to that, it means nearly 290,000 U.S. citizens of retirement age are living in Mexico right now. The real number of retirees living overseas is vastly higher than what the payment data suggests. Which leads us straight into Section 4, the Medicare catch, healthcare abroad. This is an absolutely crucial piece of the puzzle, and it trips up countless hopeful expats. Social Security will happily follow you across the globe, but Medicare? It does not. Generally speaking, Medicare will not pay for care outside the United States. This means if you move abroad, you are entirely on the hook for arranging private healthcare coverage. And sure, while private coverage is often cheaper overseas, it requires serious, heavy-duty logistical planning long before you ever book your flight. And that brings us to the grand finale. Section 5, Red Tape and Banking Blues, the bureaucratic nightmare. Because healthcare is really just the beginning. To stay abroad legally, you usually need long-stay visas, retirement visas, or residency permits. And those usually require proving a minimum monthly income or keeping a big lump sum bank balance. Plus, the rules are changing at lightning speed. Just over the last few years, Portugal closed the real estate path to its golden visa in 2023. In Spain, they ended their golden visa entirely for 2025. Then you throw in the legal landscape for banking, which started getting really intense back in 2010, and managing your money becomes a full-time headache. Let's actually break down some of the acronyms that cause these expats so much grief. First up, FBAR. It's a Treasury report that you have to file totally separate from your tax return, and it kicks in if your combined foreign bank balances exceed $10,000 at any point during the year. $10,000? That is such a low threshold that it catches almost any retiree who just wants to keep a local checking account open to pay for their rent and groceries. Then you have FATCA, the Foreign Account Tax Compliance Act. This is that 2010 law I mentioned. It requires single expats with $200,000 in foreign assets at year-end to file IRS Form 8938. But the really big deal here is that FATCA legally obligates foreign banks to report their American account holders directly to U.S. authorities. And trust me, this creates massive fallout on both sides of the border. It sets off what we call the expat banking domino effect. Think about it. You start by just trying to open a local bank account so you can buy groceries. Simple, right? Well, doing that triggers the heavy FBR and FATCA reporting rules. Because of all that crazy regulatory burden, a lot of foreign banks will literally just refuse to open accounts for U.S. citizens. They don't want to deal with it. Meanwhile, back in the States, U.S. banks are increasingly closing accounts held by Americans living abroad, often with zero notice. And the absolute worst part? Some U.S. brokerages will refuse to keep your IRAs or 401ks open if you have a foreign address. Your life savings effectively become trapped in this giant international tug-of-war. So what does this all mean? We've explored the incredible dream, the surprisingly complex data, the hidden expats flying under the radar, and some massive bureaucratic hurdles. We want to leave you with this final provocative question to chew on. Is the cheaper cost of living truly worth the tangled web of global banking, the loss of Medicare, and those fast-changing visa requirements? It's definitely a question you've got to answer for sure before you start packing your bags for that tropical retirement. Thank you so much for joining us for this explainer. Keep learning, and we'll catch you next time.